We will now begin our Black History Month celebration. Hello everyone, my name is Bhakti Patel, BSU President, and I will be presiding tonight. Now I introduce Charlotte Franklin, BSU Vice President and Region 1 Director, who will conduct the libations.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. An African proverb tells us that people who lack the knowledge of their past are like a tree without roots. So in the spirit of remembrance, we pour this libation. We pour to honor the past so that we may learn from it. We pour to honor the importance of family and friends. We raise our cup to God to show our reverence for the original source of our lives. We use cool water as a symbol, as a continuity of life, to purify and to nourish our souls. We pour to celebrate the memory of the departed. Place your minds with those who could not be here today. Family, friends, and ancestors who have passed on or ill, or simply could not find their way here. Place your thoughts with this person or persons, and if you feel so moved, say their name aloud. Please say Ashe after every name. Martin Luther King. Ashe. Malcolm X. Ashe. Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm gonna do my grandfather, Leo Marlowe. Anybody else want to say any other names that y'all would like, any of your ancestors as well? Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Dr. Joseph White.
Ashe. 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 Ashe.
Sarah Purdy Spires.
Ashe. 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 We cast our libation to the north, to the south, the east, and to the west. We wish everyone to leave today more blessed than when they arrived. Asante, meaning thank you. Ashe.
Thank you, Charlotte. We are here to celebrate Black History Month by honoring individuals of the past and present who have made contributions and sacrifices that impact us all. African Americans have contributed immensely in making this country great. Although many African Americans initially arrived in chains in this country and passed on in chains, there were many leaders who paved the way towards freedom. African Americans have influenced the course of American history, some through inventions and discoveries, some through speaking and writing, and some through music, art, education, and athletics. We hope that our program tonight will be inspirational and will enlighten everyone on the contributions of the past that have shaped our world into what it is today. Now please rise for the Black National Anthem and the presentation of colors by the Buffalo Soldiers.
Good evening. Please join me in prayer. God of creation, we bow before you, full of wonder, praise, and adoration. We pause today to remember our brave ancestors who fought and died to transform the world for us and for generations to come. In those days, when hope appeared to be dead, you were with us. You ushered in hope and transformed darkness into light. We especially ask your blessings upon all of the families who are here and those who are not present. Bless the food we are now about to receive for the nourishment of our bodies. For all these blessings, we are eternally grateful and ask them in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Keisha. Now I invite Mrs. Michelle Tabor Kimbrough from Art Factory Gallery to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Tabor Kimbrough, and I own the Art Factory, and really appreciate being here. I've always been as a guest, and so this time I'm here with my artwork. I'm a watercolor artist. I have been painting for about 25 years for the most part. Otherwise, I've been an artist all my life. But formerly a Army helicopter pilot, and now I just paint and have fun. The body of work that I have that's back there is from my travels to St. Croix. We have friends down there that are from that area, and they have their annual Christmas parade, which is in the month of January, and it's like Mardi Gras, where they have all the feathers and pageantry and everything. And of course, I, as an artist, I love color, if you can't tell. And I couldn't help it, and I really, when I take pictures, I never know what becomes artwork, until you get it home and you start looking at it. And it evolved into this body of work. The story, from what I understand from their story, is that Christmas time, the slave owners would have their Christmas celebration and everything else. And then after Christmas, they would allow the slaves to have their celebrations. And so they were able to celebrate. And of course, they would have a big to-do and a big party. And then the adult parade with all the pageantry was the last day of the celebration, which is, for everybody to come see. So it has evolved into this beautiful and colorful celebration. Of course, you all know that back then it was whatever they had, So that's how that story evolved. And it's wonderful to be able to be a part of a culture, which is what my artwork represents, is American culture. And they are part of the U.S. as another part of the American story. I also have some of my artwork that is our local imagery, because we love to have parades, and we have beauty queens and all, and I have a smattering of a little bit of that artwork as well. But again, it's our culture. This is home, and this is our story. And as artists, that's what we do. We tell our story, that's right around us. So please enjoy, and I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am a meek spirit, the painting poetess. And I got a poem called Let Us Make History. We come a long way, but we got a ways to go. And as we celebrate Black History Month, I'm grateful to be standing here yet for my ancestors' contributions, and those who fought with and for them. In writing this poem, America was in a bit of a turmoil. So I was thinking it's just not his story, but it's his story or her story. So I truly believe racism is a disease that some don't know that they have or refuse to acknowledge, and Jesus is the cure for all. So I'll get started with this poem. Let us make history. Room. The back of the bus, the back of the class, the back of a police car. Myself, I ask this question. If I give up my seat for you, do I stand for the mistreatment of me? You have Rosa and Ida B. You say that all lives matter, but some disagree. What does it mean to be created equal but have to fight for equality? Still taking quite some time to digest in the system, whether it be the judicial or the school. Have you heard of Ruby B? Bridging the gap, treated like she broke a rule so no one can get left out or left back. Some argue it's a different day, it's a different time, but keep in mind when at the polls some were defeated, the gavel's been dropped on their toes. Justice ain't been kind, because those of a dark pigment keeps being forced to the back of a line. Isn't justice supposed to be colorblind? Why do they disregard my skin color or just that of my brothers whom they refuse to see? It's been said that my sisters share in police brutality. Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, too many to count on one hand. You know, King had a dream, some call it prophecy. What do your family and friends think of this travesty? If they can't relate, proudly negate, does this mean that they silently hate? Should I expect an apology? Not sorry, what my ancestors did has nothing to do with me. Perhaps could it be whitewashing, white privilege, or white fragility? You say let the past be just that, but the present, the future is a familiar storyline. Tastic, systematic, painted problematic. Where's the shame and racism? Could history repeat itself? Inquiring minds want to know who traded heaven for privilege and wealth. The massacre of Tulsa and the Lane, so many others to name, helped to create generational poverty. Property stole, treasure pictures of lynchings, fingers and toes kept sacred as novelties. You've been quiet far too long. Will you hurry up and make a decision? Will you uphold discrimination and say I'm wrong? They say move along, my ancestors hung, and I'm not hanging on to the past, just that. I'm dying to know the apprehension, I'm struggling, I'm hurting, I quote, I can't breathe. Eric Garner and George Floyd, while dying slow. We let go on and on, we forgive, please, I'm begging for life, see me as an equal live and let us live. Take a stand in the ugly race, don't pass the baton. Let's heal this land, take my hand, cause violence backed by silence leave me in a hanging, awkward place. Let's begin to make America great and look racists in the face while proudly telling them we're all created equal, and for hate there's simply no space. Now, if I give up my seat for you, will you stand with me, by me, and for me? Let us make history. Thank you.
Our next guest is Mr. Wayne Herrings, who will present his African excursion to Ghana.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honored yet humbled to have been asked to come and share with you my trip to Ghana in December. I spent 7 days over there, and it was a trip of a lifetime. We do honor our speaker, to our president of this BSU union, to Dr. Spires, the advisor, and to all of you in your respective places. I'm going to ask Ms. Morales if you will watch the screen. She has a clip that we want to watch first, and then we will show some pictures and we will talk about the trip.
I don't know that I've ever seen poverty the way I've seen it here in Ghana. The living conditions of some of our brothers and sisters in Africa is unthinkable.
The parents themselves, they are not able to feed their children very well. Most of the children become very vulnerable. There is malnutrition, and then their health care is a challenge. Their growth is stunted. Their learning abilities are lower compared to a child who has everything at their disposal.
We have so many needs. In the community, it is a deprived area where the children over there are not attending school. Not because they are not willing to attend the school, but the means is not there. Instead of school being a right for the child, it is like a privilege for the child.
Some parents were struggling to take care of their children and even taking them to hospitals to treat their children when they are sick. And even some couldn't afford that. So some people eventually lost their children, and it was a very sad situation there.
Well, I just think that the mission of the church as it relates to the Great Commission is not just local, but I think our mission is global. Having individuals in local churches in the United States connect with churches and individuals around the world. And in order to build a capacity to extend our witness around the world, we have to partner.
You see that from one generation to another generation, poverty becomes a cycle, but it can be broken because compassion becomes the light, connecting frontline churches in typical villages to our supporting churches overseas.
I think that compassion gives us a new way to pivot in doing mission. Having individuals in the United States connect in a unique way, where they can support children in education and job skills training, and it's just being able to survive the environment where they're living.
When you become a part of what Compassion is doing, you literally are making a child a disciple of Christ, and they read the Christ in the letters. They see the very concern that you have for them as a person, and they feel the love that you have for them.
Seriously, we want to thank all the ministers in the forefront who want to stretch a hand of love to our children here so they can get hope, so they can stand tall in the community. And we appreciate that. God bless you all in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. This time she's going to run a loop of pictures, and while she's running those pictures, I'll give you some information as to what I witnessed while I was there. As I said, I traveled to Ghana in December, and December is their dry season. When I left Washington, D.C. for an 11-hour flight over to Ghana, it was 43 degrees when we left Washington, D.C. When the plane landed in Ghana, which they are 6 hours ahead of us in time, it was 90 degrees when we touched down in Ghana. As you can see from the clip, the dry season and the ground, you see just mud, there's no grass. So you can imagine in the rainy season when it rains, rain and dirt makes what? Mud. The living conditions there in Ghana were, as you could see in the pictures, was just overwhelming. When I saw some of what I witnessed firsthand, it brought tears to my eyes. Because as I looked and I said to myself, I said, Lord, this could have been me. Easily could have been me. Some of the privileges that we have here in America, just to be able to go to a wall and turn on a light switch, no running water, they'll never experience. As you saw one of the families that we visited in one of the villages, housed the grandparents, parents, children, and grandchildren all under one roof. We visited schools. We went out where I would call through the jungle to visit a school that is connected with the church. The kids there was just so excited to see us like we were gods, so to speak. Their schools, buildings, no lights, no windows. So you can imagine the conditions that they're learning under. One of the pastors there at the church was saying that for a while they had no restroom facilities. They had to build a latrine up the road, and the kids would go travel a half a mile to relieve themselves, and during the run of a day, some of them wouldn't come back to school because they just go off. And as we rode through the countryside, and as you can see in the pictures, in the clip, all of those buildings, and you didn't see any power lines because there's no electricity going to these buildings. There's no water. But some of them have managed in the villages at the schools to be able to put in restrooms. They were able to dig wells, put in restroom facilities. They took us down to a river where, before they was able to do this, where they would have to go and wash and get water and do all of their needs with water along with other animals that's coming to the same water hole. Just going to bed at night, laying down in the bed, some of these will never experience that. They told us while we were there for the 7 days not to drink any water. All the water that we drank was bottled water. They told us not to eat any vegetables because they didn't know how the vegetables was washed, with potable water or fresh water. They told us if you're going to eat fruit, make sure the fruit was peeled. Most of the buildings, we attended a church, a beautiful church, the church would put some of these, as far as the way it looks, to shame, as far as the structure, what's in them, but there was no air conditioning, just big ceiling fans, no air conditioning duct nowhere in the building. But as we attended the church services, when the people there in Ghana, they are so appreciative of what they have. And here in America, it's not so much that we worry about what we have, it's what we don't have. This trip really humbled me because, again, I said that it could have been me. Now, this church here was one of the first ones we visited along with the school, and across the road they took us over, and they was teaching young ladies how to braid hair. One of the classrooms had young ladies, they was sewing. And there's no electricity in the building, so you know the sewing machines, they had to turn the sewing machine with one hand and feed the material through the machine with the other hand. And some of the pictures that you would see of things that they made, they sewed, was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Compassion International was the group that allowed us to go and travel because our national convention, we have churches in Ghana, and we have partnered with them to go and to be a part of what they're doing and try to sponsor these children to give them better living. Once they get into the program with Compassion, they're only allowed to stay in it until the age of 22. Once they can reach 22, then they have to leave the program to make room for someone else. And to sponsor one of these young children, you can sponsor one of these for $38 a month is all it costs to sponsor a child. The success story behind Compassion is that we met 6 of the young people that had gone through the program. In one of the pictures, you will see one of the young ladies, she came in, she's 22, she's out of the program. The outfit that she had on, she's a fashion designer now. One of the students that had gone through the program, he's an English teacher. Another student that had gone through the program, he's in politics. One of the amazing student that we met, he's 21 years old. He got out of the program a year early. At the age of 15, he got into farming with his father and was voted the youngest farmer in Ghana. He was given an opportunity to further his ability in farming, and next year he did the same thing. So now, at the age of 21, he owns 7 businesses. He owns farms. He told me that he has a rabbit farm. One of the young men that we met, he's a bee farmer, so he works with the bee farmer because the bees pollinate his crops. So they're working together with each other. But this young man, he looks like he's about 15 or 16, but he's very smart. Compassion has done a great thing with, or is doing a great thing with these kids. What I witnessed the 7 days, I really can't share it all with you. I wish I could, but I want to hear our speaker. But it was just so humbling to be there. It made me realize how blessed I am, how blessed we are. And it made me go back through history when I was young, and when your parents told you to do something, you know how we talked under our breath, saying that we weren't going to do, how ungrateful we was. That made me realize those days when I was being ungrateful. But seeing these kids and how thankful they are, and in some places I was telling my wife that when the sun goes down, that's it. You can't see your hand in front of your face unless you got a fire going. As you saw in the clip, outside of that village, that little cooking area, their kitchen is outside on a little makeshift top with a fire. That's their kitchen. And 3 or 4 families around sharing the same cooking area. The schools and the buildings you see, there's so many that have been started, they're not complete, but when you look, you see people living there. And in the scene on the clip where you saw all of those buildings and that water out, that was the Atlantic Ocean, that was the ocean. Imagine here in Jackson County, if you got waterfront property, you living in a pretty much $500,000 house. These houses that you see in Ghana, no lights. Some of them don't have but 3 sides, no fronts. But the people are so appreciative of what they have. And it just made me realize again how blessed we are here in America. So one of the, I don't know, have you passed the slave castle? Have you gotten there yet? But one of the, and I'm going to close with this because there's just so much I can say, but I want to close with this, and she can get back to the picture. This picture here is a picture of a slave castle that we visited while we were there. And the door, the black door, the door you see coming down to the steps, the stairway, the steps, you see that? That door is considered the door of no return. That castle housed slaves before they were shipped off to wherever they were going. Now, while we were in there, we went into this room where they would house these slaves, and the room would probably hold 25, 30 people comfortably. They would put 150 to 200 slaves in one room. And across the floor was about a 2-inch trench that ran across the floor and out the door. For the slaves, if they relieved themselves, the liquid would run out the room, the solids would stay in. So you can imagine the stitch. One of the rooms they showed us said that when you went in this room, it was a little small room, you got 3 things: no lights, no water, and no food. Actually, this room was your guest center. When you came out of this room, you were dead. Another room we went in, the floor was different from the first room we went in, and the gentleman said to us, he said, the floor that you're standing on now, they sent it off and had it analyzed. And every body fluid that would come out of a person's body was in this floor. Tears, blood, urine, whatever body fluid you had was in this floor. And I was standing in that spot on that floor. But this door of no return was just the last as they marched the slaves out to load them on the ship. And while I was there, and you know, all these different emotions run through your mind, and as though you could hear the chains rattling, you could hear our brothers and sisters that were separated for the women. You could just hear them moaning and groaning. And the women's area was separate. And you know the story of the slave masters when they would try to get close to our women, and some of the ladies wouldn't go along with them, and so they would take them to another place and try to break their spirit to get them to do what they wanted them to do. But the door of no return, I walked through that door out to the ocean. And the tour guide said to us that you can look out and you see boats there and now, but so they loaded the slaves on these ships and took them to America and to Europe, where they was taking them. And when they loaded the ships and began the journey, some of the boats were overloaded, so they had to throw some of the slaves into the ocean. Some of the slaves died along the way. Listen to me good, because I'm finished. We walked back through that door from the outside into the inside, and on the outside, someone had put a sign that says, the door of return. So as we walked back in the door, and the gentleman closed the door behind us and locked it, and he said to us, he said, do you all know what just happened? And, you know, we looked at each other and, well, we walked back through the door. And he said to us, because you came back through that door, that means that your bloodline made it to where they carried. Think about that. You're sitting here tonight, every one of us, is because your bloodline made it.
Brian L. Turner, PhD, is a native of New Orleans, LA. and completed his undergraduate studies at the Southern University at Baton Rouge. He completed his doctoral studies in clinical psychology at Jackson State University. Dr. Turner currently serves as a licensed clinical psychologist in private practice, Moments of Truth, LLC, as a tenured associate professor in the Department of Psychology at Xavier University of Louisiana, and he serves as director of the African American Diaspora Studies program at Xavier University of Louisiana. Across his obligations, Dr. Turner has worked with college students, post-incarceration sex offenders, but most ardently, he has worked with black males from adolescence to adulthood on a wide spectrum of issues. Dr. Turner has published work in peer-reviewed journals, book chapters, and technical reports on community health, masculinity identity development, and mentorship. Dr. Turner is a sought-after speaker on topics ranging from reduction of mental stigma, masculinity identity therapy, and culture, and mental health in higher education. Dr. Turner's work as a professor, clinician, and researcher is grounded in his multicultural training, which examines the impact of culture on mental health. During his time at Xavier University of Louisiana, his research has focused on black male experiences in higher education, black women and risky behaviors, and mental health in HBCUs. Dr. Turner is the proud single father of a beautiful girl, Blair Layla. He is also the daddy to Vaughn Duke Bailey Turner, a full-blooded German Rottweiler. Dr. Turner currently serves on the board for the TRIM Community Education Program, the Metropolitan Human Service District, and Arts Council of New Orleans. He is also the lead mentor at Samuel J. Green for the Silverback Society, where also coordinates the annual program evaluation. Dr. Turner is an alumnus of the Urban League Equity and Diversity Fellowship, the Justice Revius O. Ortick Jr. Leadership Institute, and a New Orleans Regional Leadership Institute. Dr. Turner has recently served as a board member for the National Alliance for Mental Illness, Louisiana, and the Encore Academy Charter School. Introducing Dr. Brian Turner.
All right, good evening. How y'all doing? Y'all ready for some therapy? I really don't like speaking after we eat because that itis get on you, and, and then you start feeling good. So I asked Brother Anthony to not complete that whole bio. My mentor used to say, don't nobody want to hear all that, they can read it when they get home. So y'all can read more about that later. I want to thank Dr. Clemens, President Chipola, for supporting this effort. Dr. Spires and Mrs. Morales for having me out, bringing me down for this occasion. Thank you to the members of BSU, the executive board, for their continued leadership. And I thank you all for being here on this evening. It's interesting too, because right now in New Orleans, Anita Baker is on her last tour. The Zulu crew ball is on this evening and I'm not there, so I'm getting pictures and texts. Whew. Miss Johnson, Miss Nicole Johnson, what's up? You got that score? Okay, sorry to hear that. Met some family. See the family people left, huh? All right, okay. Y'all can strike all y'all want. It's all good. It's all good. I ain't scared of no rattling. I'm a Jaguar, baby. I'm a Jaguar. So, y'all won a championship yet? Y'all won a championship yet? Hey, it don't matter if you don't win a championship, we always last. That when I played that Sunday, it was simple. If you wasn't first, you was last. You want to talk about the band? That's a whole nother conversation. Without the football team, ain't no band. I never saw a halftime show, so I couldn't tell you what the band looked like. I know our band sounds great. To Brother Wayne's point, I had the opportunity to go to Ghana a couple years ago as well. There's a book called Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi, Yaagyiasi. Very, very good book. I taught from that book on my trip to Ghana. It actually chronicles some of the issues that occur. So that would be a very good book if anyone's read it. It's a great book. It was very interesting, and I actually recommend it out to anybody. Thank you for Terica for coming and being with me on this evening as well. She said, well, she's from New Orleans, so this is a little dark for us sometimes. But she was like, it's so dark. I was like, it's okay, we're all right. We're family. We're good. So I'm gonna do a couple of things tonight. I'm gonna start out with a little spoken word, then I'm gonna get into the topic, which when Dr. Spires invited me, we was talking and going back and forth kind of on a theme, and I was talking about some things that's going on, and I don't know if any of y'all know, but oftentimes when I teach my black psychology class, I start off with talking about the Willie Lynch letter. Anybody heard of that? All right, so we're gonna get on to that, but I talked about really at this point in time, I said, with all other stuff going on in this world, we need to really lose our Willie Lynch mind. So tonight I'm gonna give y'all some things, and this is usually therapy for me, but I'm gonna start as this. This actually was a poem I wrote when I left Ghana. It was after I learned some things. So, out of your blackness, you gave the world oil. Out of your blackness, you gave the world diamonds and gold. Out of your blackness, you gave the world knowledge, music, science. Out of your blackness, you gave the world kings and queens and your sons and daughters. And out of your blackness, the world knows gumbo, dance, and how to jam. And out of your blackness, you gave the world Jesus, Muhammad, and peace. And out of your blackness, the world has philosophy, mathematics, and kente. And out of your blackness, the world has rice, indigo, and okra. But lastly, out of your blackness, the world has me. So, when we talk about Black History Month, we oftentimes are talking about first and the great things that African Americans done and do, and we have that list of all the inventors and inventions and all the great black people we've known. And I was thinking about this tonight, and I said, really, we have to continue to think about one of our greatest firsts, which was the election of Barack Obama as president, right? The first African American, first black person as president. At the same time, recently, we can also understand that we had our first time of having two African American quarterbacks play in the Super Bowl, right? So we got some firsts, right? Y'all follow me? But at the same time, we've had some firsts that are not as noteworthy, but are just as impactful negatively. We continue to see voting rights being eroded by Republican elected officials, and we see attacks on I don't know if this is gonna get you in trouble, but I'm gonna say it, and if I gotta deal with it, I'll come back. But we gotta deal with attacks on culturally relevant and competent education in schools by elected officials because they want to denounce and deride African American history and the contributions of African Americans to society. So we have these attacks also on federal buildings. We still have attacks on black people by police. So we can talk about all these firsts and these greats, but the reality of it is some of these firsts ain't all that great. So my undergirding for the day is to ask ourselves, who taught you to love yourself? Who taught you to love yourself? I chose this today. About 60 years ago, Alhaj Malik Shabazz, more popularly referred to as Malcolm X, asked the diametrical opposite of that question to a crowd in Los Angeles. He said, who taught you to hate yourself? He was speaking at the funeral for LAPD officer Ronald Stokes. And in that moment, the great orator that he was, he weaved the conversation with his audience in which he examined the very nature of whiteness and how, in such a way, the obvious became too obvious. That there were people who had systematically and intentionally sought to make black people hate themselves. So as we sit here at Black History Month, and as we sit here in this program, and y'all look good. Y'all look good. Y'all look real good. We got to ask ourselves, who taught us to love ourselves? Because too often, if you look around, there's too many people teaching us to hate ourselves. So I thought about this, right? very popular song back in the day. And I wasn't always Dr. Turner. I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about who I was growing up, but very popular song. Maybe some of the younger folks will remember, but Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child had this song called I Need a Soldier. Anybody remember that song? Who said yes like that? Okay. Now here's my thing though. We like them boys up top from the BK that know how to flip their money 3 ways, always riding big on the freeway with that East Coast slang that us country girls like. Now where I'm from, if you flipping your money 3 ways, that means you selling drugs. I'm sorry, some of y'all may not know these things, but flipping your money means you get a little bit of money, buy a little bit of drugs. You sell those drugs, you get that money, you go get some more drugs, then you get some more drugs, some more money. So what I thought about was the fact that that really didn't include me. That song didn't say anything about a master's degree or a PhD or a 401k or IRA or a mortgage or good credit. And the point I make with that is when we ask this question, who taught you to love yourself? I have to say we got to examine some of the stuff that we allow into our communities. And since I see some of my elders here, I'm going to go ahead and chastise y'all too. See, sometimes my elders, y'all can't just let the kids be kids. See, sometimes I witness my clients when they come in and my parents say, I just don't know what to do with him. Well, when was the last time you looked through his computer or his phone? Oh, I don't look through that. When the last time you went in this room? We was talking about elders and, that whole paying attention. Sometimes I'd be afraid of my own house to close my door because I grew up with my mom saying, don't nobody close no doors in this house. So I have to remind myself, this is my house, and if I want to close the door, I can. But when she come, don't tell my mom, I said, when she come over, I'll be opening them. But when she leave, I'll be closing them again. So we think about this, right? So I blame elders, but then I talk to my kids. I say, where is it that you're really trying to go? So I want y'all to think about that, right? So, and then when I think about the kids, because this is what becomes important too, is that, anybody remember the study by Kenneth Clark and Mamie Clark, the doll study? Anybody remember the doll study? That's why I don't raise your hand. Anybody in psych majors? Anybody remember the doll studies? Somebody, what was that study about? You remember?
Which one was nicer, prettier, kinder?
Which one would they want to be like? Leave it alone, family. Leave it alone. See, back in the day, 2 psychologists, their research became the amicus brief that was the groundbreaking legal case that overturned the separate but equal Brown versus Board of Education ruling. Remember that? The ruling was separate was equal. You African Americans, you could have your school and white school, and they told us we was getting the same, but the reality of it is what? It wasn't the same, right? So when we turn this over, so what becomes important in this moment is that we think about the fact that who taught you to love yourself? See, that doll study showed us that the impacts of racism was so negative that it literally crippled the racial identity of black folks in America to the point where, and once again, kids being, pretty malleable and shaping, and you can do all those things, it showed that in kids, the impact of racism was so effective that it was causing black kids to dislike being black. And I'm boiling it down, but the point was the kids would choose white dolls, Asian dolls, any doll but the black doll. The pretty doll was any doll but the black doll. The smart doll was any doll but the black doll. The doll would be like any doll but the black doll. But the kicker in that was that it was also causing these kids to praise whiteness. And I'm not going to beat up on white folks. I love my white family, white friends. I ain't got no problem with white people. But if my demise is what has to happen for you to feel comfortable, I can't rock with that. So once again, who taught you to love yourself? Who taught you to love yourself? Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, a noted psychiatrist, stated that oftentimes in the black community, we're the only people on this planet who have been taught to sing our own and praise our own demeanor. I'm a gangster, I'm a thug, I'm a B, I'm a O, I'm a dog. In essence, what she said that too many people in the black community have been trained to simply demean and degrade themselves. And it's in our music, right? It's in TV. So we have to examine these things. And so the reality she said, though, was that if you can teach people to, in essence, demean themselves, I don't have to be around to do it anymore. So at that point, we see that the programming is done. The programming is done in such a way that people now don't even understand why we can just kill each other. The programming is done, and I'm a two-time graduate of HBCU. I work at a university. The programming is done. I've had students ask me some questions about being HBCU. I say, I'm sorry. If you don't understand what HBCU is for, that's your problem. Now, once again, I don't have a problem in any school, but the reality was there was a time where black people could not go to Florida State, or Florida, or Miami, or Chipola, or UWF, right? I'm just here to tell the truth. I'm gonna leave tomorrow if y'all don't like me. I'll be all right. Who taught you to love yourself? So Willie Lynch, as I made reference, anybody, what was the Willie Lynch letter about? Now I will say this, I don't haggle about whether the Willie Lynch letter was true or not, but if you read it, you have to say it, sure enough that happened, but you wanna give a little taste of what Willie Lynch talked about? There we go. So, where you went to school?
I'm sorry?
Where you went to school?
Jackson Junior College, as well as JCTS,
Uh-huh.
and also Florida A&M.
Okay, go ahead on then. All right, now go ahead. I'll let that rattler strike all night long. Go ahead, then. So she brought it down. I will say, it did say anything about not whipping. It actually is very clear that you can apply the whip as often as you want. But the Willie Lynch letter was in essence a formula on how to keep enslaved people enslaved for several generations. And once again, I'm here now as a good clinician, Dr. Spies, we have to always diagnose the problem first, then we look and make sure that once the diagnosis is accurate, we can go ahead and begin treatment so that we can undo the psychological disorder, right? So we're understanding how we got here, right? So Black History Month is not a month of just having programs. Black History Month should be where we celebrate all of the actions that we've been doing throughout the year and that we're going to continue to take. And so the first one, like I said tonight, was understanding, how we do ourselves, that idea of how we hate ourselves. Now we talk about the Willie Lynch letter because the reality of it is all too often we find that some of this stuff just keeps perpetuating itself. We do it to ourselves, right? So once again, what Brother Malcolm X is telling us in that oratory genius, what he titled, he was showing us that the systematic representation of things like images, messages, and behaviors were being programmed into the black community that in essence just taught us to hate ourselves. So that's why sometimes it becomes important what our kids and what we see, right? My mentor once said to me, if a child can see it, he can be it. Right? That's why when Brother Anthony talked about mentorship, it becomes so important to make sure I'm in spaces where they don't often see a black PhD. So I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about me right quick. Now, I ain't never sold drugs. I wasn't no hustler, nothing like that, because my mama was not having that in her house. But I grew up, I'm the fourth of 5 boys to my mother. She was married to my father for a short time, but they divorced. But we grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and if y'all think New Orleans is bad now, come holler at me later and I'll tell y'all how it was in the 90s when I was catching a bus across the city. But see, I was tagged to be a statistic before I could even walk. And some people might understand, but I grew up in New Orleans with Master P and Weezy F Baby. Please say the baby was climbing the charts, and all they talked about was Black Death. And I remember singing some of this stuff. I remember thinking that's what it was about. And when I played football, me and my partners I played football with, it was always the hardest, hitting being the hardest, and you gotta be the hardest. And I remember when Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G., he said something that always stuck to me, and I was like, something wrong with this. But he said, the only way out was to sell crack rock or to have a wicked jump shot. So once again, nobody was telling me per se, get that PhD, get that master's. Make sure you have an IRA, make sure you have a 401k. Make sure you have that 50C3, that LLC, right? So a lot of people like to come and say, oh, I'm gonna come down to the Big Easy. But what I often tell them is, the Big Easy ain't really all that easy. But I'm gonna stand here before you, we're about to do this work. I'm about to lay it down and be out of your way. But I'm gonna tell you like this, the reasons why is because I lost my Willie Lynch mind a long time ago. I lost it because there were people who taught me to love myself. There were people like my mama who did not tell me I would be just like my daddy. So we gotta stop telling our kids they're gonna be just like somebody that's a negative representation of them. See, my mama told me I was gonna be like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One day I'll be speaking before people and they would like me, right? She told me I could be like Maynard Jackson. But the one I really liked that she told me was that I would be like Billy D. Williams. Now look at me all smart and charismatic, and you can't tell me I'm not handsome. See, my teachers didn't tell me I couldn't. They told me not only that I could, but that I better. I better do my homework, and I better read that book, and I better do well in math. They told me that I could so that when I left my little black elementary school to attend my predominantly white Jewish high school, that I could. See, I could do just as well as, and sometimes even better, as some of the kids that I was sitting next to. And I found out I did, because when I got back home to New Orleans, some of my classmates, they would see me, they was asking me about football. I said, oh, okay, whatever. And they said, what you do? I said, I'm a doctor. They'd be like, what? Yeah, I'm a doctor. And they gave me that look like, how are you? I said, because I could. See, my professors at Southern, and my coaches at Southern, and my mentors and professors at Jackson State told me that my research and my test scores and my ideas were just as good as any student at Florida, Florida State, Harvard, or California. So this Black History Month, I'm gonna give y'all a couple of things that I want y'all to do to help make sure we losing our Willie Lynch mind. First, know thyself. I think too often we've gotten away from having these conversations at home and talking about history and talking about family and talking about the things that we know brought us to where we are. See, too often I have clients, and one of the big things I deal with in my research right now is the lack of identity in many black communities, which means that unlike my friends who are Jewish or from the Middle East or Asian or Native American, or Spanish-speaking descent, they can go back generations and generations and generations and know what their people first stepped foot in this country or where they came from across the water. See, too often, I find not enough of us are proud to call ourselves black or southern or country. Whether you're from the city, whether you tall, skinny, or slim, or thick, or big fine, or whatever it is, natural or kinky hair, wigs or extensions, whatever you got, but be proud to be you. See, we're all different, but if you didn't have pride in yourself, or if somebody didn't have pride in you, then as you come along, what you think gonna happen? So we have to get to the point where we understand that you can do it, but you gotta know yourself. You gotta know what you're good at. See, the other thing about pride is that you will find it in yourself to meet and exceed expectations. So I love when I get up, and oftentimes sometimes when I be really dressed, like I was chill that night because I knew I was gonna eat good, so I didn't want to come in here too tight and not be able to move, you know. But sometimes I be really, I love the people to not think I'm Dr. Turner and not get up and I surprise them because I know I could do it. So like I said, I was supposed to be a statistic, but once I found that pride, nobody stopped me. No rat letter, especially in a rattler. But that also meant that knowing myself, I'm gonna never let myself down. I'm gonna never let my mom down. I'll never let my family down. I'll never let my community down. So pride, first and foremost, will be the fuel for you to overcome. And it will also keep you from doing stuff that you shouldn't do. I ain't coming to talk about tonight, but I'm gonna just say pride will stop people from doing stuff they shouldn't do. Number two, and see, this is really, sometimes, some things have changed. I'm the department head, also the psych department now, so I have to deal with a lot of fires actually now, which is funny, right? But my biggest fire is my students who come in and they got these little bitty dreams. I mean, little. I just want to graduate, Dr. Turner. That's it. They got a whole world out there needing you to go and blow it up. They got a whole world out there waiting for you to give it something amazing. So I say dream big. See, y'all, we always talk about Dr. King's dream once a year. Everybody tells it, and especially politicians now. I get so tired of politicians. The only speech they know about Dr. King is I Have a Dream speech. But if you get a chance, go and read a little bit more about Dr. King. And you'll find that his dream was so big. You'll find that what he really wanted to happen was so big that that's why they killed him. So as the saying go, I'm gonna let y'all, that might have went over some people's head, but if you go read, you're gonna see that his dream was so big, right? But I love this saying, and I bought my daughter that shirt that said, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And I'm gonna keep her with that shirt. Never where she goes, she gonna wear it, because I want her to know that they got something out here so big that she gonna do it that can't nothing stop her. But the reality of it is this. There was a day when your grandmother or your grandfather, your big mom or your nana or your titi prayed over you that you would be the wildest creations of their imaginations. So much so that you wouldn't even know how many prayers and dreams and sacrifices were offered up for you. So it's time for all of us to stop these little bitty dreams. We got to get back to dreaming big. We got to dream big today. We got to dream big tomorrow. And we got to dream big forever, because your dreams can become your reality because you are someone's dream and you are now their reality. So if you don't understand how important that dream is, have a small dream for somebody else and watch how you limit them. But have a big dream for somebody else and pour into them and watch how they make that happen. Number three, give love. Give love. Love graciously. In the world we live in today, and I'm gonna make this one real short, it's so interesting how much hate is just pushed out all the time. But Dr. King said that thing. He said the only thing that can drive out darkness is what? And the only thing that can drive out hate is? So I'm just gonna ask y'all, give love. Like I'm about. There's so much that we carry that sometimes we don't understand how sometimes just that love that you can give to somebody can just change them. Give love. And lastly, and this might be more for my youngsters and me in my heart, don't quit. Don't quit. One of my favorite poems begins this way. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. See, Black History Month gives us time to reflect on all those who did not quit. See, we got a list of African Americans who did everything and everywhere that gives us evidence of the value we have as people. So yeah, don't you quit. See, studies gonna get tough. They tell people on campus, now, Dr. Turner, great professor, but he hard. You're gonna have to read. Imagine that. You're gonna have to write. You gotta talk in class. Don't quit. See, sometimes money gonna get tight. Don't quit. Call home. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, they're gonna be like, what you need that money for now? Okay, I'll sell it to you. All right. Don't quit. See, friends act funny too. Friends gonna act real funny, but don't quit. So no matter what, you have to keep going. So when you have to keep studying, or when you have to get up early to get to class, or if you have to work an extra shift to cover some expenses, or when you have to tell Bae, good night, I gotta go, I got a test tomorrow. Or Bae, if you're not helping me study, you gotta go. Sometimes you have to turn off the Instagram, to get off of Twitter, so you can write your paper. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this old Negro spiritual that they used to sing. And this is what I want y'all to go out of here with tonight. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Cause I'm gonna just keep on walking and keep on talking and marching on the freedom land. So today, who taught you to love yourself? Whatever you need to do and whatever you need to put in there, don't let it turn you around from loving yourself. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. I would like to present you a token of our appreciation. Chipola College Black Student Union presented to Dr. Brian Turner in appreciation for your willingness to serve as a speaker for the 2023 Black History Program. Now, we will have Buffalo Soldiers return the colors. Thank you all of you for coming. We hope you enjoyed our program. Be safe traveling home. We will see you next year. Good night.